W skrócie są to warsztaty na temat finansowania startupów. Także zapraszamy. I see Anrick, you're with us now, so you can launch on the stage. Anrick will take you on a journey with the Black Diamond.
Look at my laptop.
Hello guys, give me just 1 second. Is that okay? Got another one if you need.
Okay, this one.
Oh, really?
Okay.
No, it's here, it's here. It's here, sorry. I should have said. And the audio button is on the other side. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see how the quality looks good. So, hello. Nice to see you all. My name is Anrick. I am a director, and I make really only websites, so I'm an interactive director doing web-based content for Nine, as in a company called Unit 9, mainly. And the work I make is either personal stories or ads. The web is slowly turning into more of a long form and more of a narrative-driven medium, at least in part. And that's something that I like to explore and play with. And sometimes people pay me for that, and sometimes I just do it because I'm interested in it. I work a lot with very old school techniques, but then we make new school things with it. So what I mean is, almost everything I do is either filmed or animated traditionally or according to very traditional processes. And then they are brought into a more new medium like the web. And my key challenge in everything I do is trying to make stories interactive and yet trying to keep the feeling that you get when you're watching a story, something that comes back to you like a response. And I think it's quite difficult. And I'm going to talk to you about one particular project, the Black Diamond, and I'll talk a little bit about how as we made it, that was quite a challenge. It's hard to make something feel real. It's deceptively easy on paper and a lot more difficult to realize it. Throughout, if I'm speaking too quickly, just shout or wave, and I'm very happy to repeat or slow down. One of the key themes in all of my work is I feel like emotions are about intensity and smartphones and web browsers are about speed. It doesn't really always connect. You can't always make that connection very well. And therefore, I think the future of the internet is very big and very slow. Same on iPhone, same on iPad, the apps that you download. If you're looking for narrative content, story-driven content, they get bigger and bigger. The download is slow, and more of those apps require Wi-Fi. I think that's a good thing. I look for a challenge, which is, can a website be experienced, not just browsed? The term browser alone is a terrible term, really, if you want to get into the web. It just suggests something very light-hearted and quick. And I want to get deep. I want to go further. So can we make the web tangible? Can we make it feel like something like cinema does, for example? I feel like it's karma, at least I'd like to think so. If you build it, people will come to it and they'll talk about it. If you make it, people will find it. That's the web, really. That's the beauty of the web. That's enough of an introduction. The Black Diamond is a project I made for Stella Artois, and I was hired to do it by an agency in London called Mother. It's an interactive film, as well as a live theater performance. I'll explain that in a second. And it's the story of a cursed diamond. in practical terms, it's a layered flash video experience. I'll speak a bit about those layers in a moment. Essentially, it's really a classic film, and the project was designed as part of Stella Artois' branding campaign to be everything that the 60s was. That's the main theme of Stella's advertising, is all about the 60s, especially French 60s cinema. It was designed to be a part of the new wave French cinema movement. It was partly imitating that, and also partly maybe making a bit of fun of that. The live theater performance is an unusual approach, but it was very effective, very interesting. I made the website. The live theater performance was running parallel to the website. Everything that you could experience in the story online was also available as a real live theater experience that happened within the streets of London. So it's street-based theater, not in a theater itself, in the streets, around town, with actors, mingling with guests. Very interesting, and I'll speak a little bit about that. I wasn't so much a part of it, but the process was very collaborative. You've got Mother really commissioning this project, and then myself doing the website, and a company called Punch Drunk doing the theater performance. Those three branches were very much linked together. They were very integral. To write the story together was key, because everything would be connected and everything would be linked. Elements within the website were connected to the theater performance to such a degree that it was really key to be together. We wrote the script and we wrote the key characters for this story all together in one room, and then we went our separate ways and created the two facets of the campaign.
A diamond.
I think something's wrong with the audio.
7:32 p.m.
Oh, yeah, there.
Monsieur Valmont and his Chari arrive. Ferry asks for a private word with Valmont. During this conversation, we may assume that Valmont learns what is about to happen next. 8:13 p.m. The band arrive. Though it is later discovered that the saxophonist has a history of illegal gambling, no one has noticed the other criminal in the room. Between 8:23 and 9:41, over 78 guests arrive. Madame Serberg is the only one who reports catching a glimpse of the black box. Attention, says Ferry, at 10:17, as Mademoiselle Fontaine arrives. Ferry falls to his knees and gives his love a box. Only a few catch a glimpse of the diamond inside. Black, they say. But nobody sees the thief. As the clock hand hits 10:23, a cry is heard across the city, and Ferry curses the stolen diamond. Whoever has my diamond, he says, will know no happiness. He will be woken from his dreams by the hand of misery, and time, the only true God, will restore it to me.
So that's a simple introduction I can give you about the story. It's worth going online and checking it out for yourself. But essentially, it's a stolen diamond which is cursed by the person who first owned it. And the curse is, whomever shall have this diamond will lose it once again. Like I said, the theater performance, as well as the story, plays out in a kind of map. And that's the map of London, East London specifically. And there are key points on that map that are forming the chapters of the diamond's journey as it passes from person to person. The theater performance took place in real life in those streets and reenacted that story. And on the website, you get a different perspective, a different point of view. For example, you have more details, more playful details to find out, such as the safe and then secondly, you've got the ability to get tickets for the live performance as part of the website as well.
Alors, the thief. The man makes a curse. Whoever has this diamond, he says, will be betrayed. They will be alone.
No. We made a deal.
And even if they sing loud enough so the gods can hear them,
Because I think your brother stole it from you.
the diamond will always leave them.
What do you mean, a black diamond?
And that was Miss Lolocker at the Griffon last night. Apparently, the legendary showgirl took her last bow in tears.
Because even if you lock it in a box and bury every key, it will never be yours. Because time returns everything to its true owner.
Make another mistake and I'll make you pay.
You should have seen it. Or maybe stories like these are best left to the imagination.
So now that you've got some idea of what the project's about, several different chapters, in each case a diamond being found and then lost again. I'll talk a little bit about some of the processes that we went through to make it. I find it interesting because especially talking about some of these elements highlights the key relationship between production companies and agencies, and especially between director and agencies. In my case, I work always very closely from the very beginning all the way to the very end with agency creatives. They are in a way my clients, but really we are collaborators. We are a tight team, and they are my main contact on a day-to-day basis in everything that I do. That starts early on in the concept phase when we were starting to think about, okay, how can we bring the story of the Black Diamond to life? We were thinking about objects from the 60s, from that time period that really give you a feeling of what it was like to be in that time. And we were trying to think about how can we play with those items. Not only do they provide a visual that is relevant for the time, but they give you a mechanism to find some information about this diamond. So a vinyl has a song, and the sleeve of the vinyl has a story. The telephone allows you to call people that know something, that discuss something, that dialogue, you find out more information, you dig deeper. The radio station has several programs, all of which, if you listen to them and if you go through them, give you more information. Working out how that would work, not only from a conceptual point of view, a story point of view, but especially technically, how could we build it, how would we shoot it, how would all those pieces come together to give you the ability to play with a 1960s telephone or an old vinyl player. It was a very complex planning process, and it involved a lot of back and forth between me and the agency. Once you get to that point, the storyboards turn slowly into an animatic. And it seems so obvious and so simple, but it's so key to communicate this information between me and my team on one side. Some of them will shoot this stuff, some of them will code it, some of them will do the sound. And then between the agency and especially the client, in this case, Stella Artois, they would really wanted to be very heavily involved. They wanted to know what was going to happen, how it was going to work, how long it would take, how difficult would it be to open that safe online. They were very worried about users dropping off. They were very worried about load times, all the key issues that make an experience, which may be amazing, unusable. So to communicate that information visually was a key step. Making sure everybody's comfortable, obviously, is essential. So then you have the final safe, just to give you a demonstration of the link.
Listen to me and do exactly as I say. If you don't, it's over for me, which means it's over for you. Open the safe. Listen to it. Feel it. Make another mistake and I'll make you pay. It's in there. I'm sure it is. Make another mistake and I'll make you pay.
So the mechanic is very simple, and yet just the process of communication is important, and the final result feels seamless as a result. On the shoot, we had a really fun shoot, just collecting all of this old, beautiful 1960s materials like the typewriter. I'm a big fan. We had somebody writing letters, which I'll talk about in a second. The old payphone. Beautiful stuff to play with, really beautiful, tangible elements and objects that, you know, many of us, myself included, didn't feel like, I mean, I have no real memories of using a lot of these kind of things. I didn't grow up using a typewriter, for example. And yet there's such a visual, tangible response when using one, that's a beautiful thing to play with. It gives you so much more than a modern keyboard. Same with the payphone. Those elements are mechanical and they have some real magic in them. So it was fun to play with those items and to create something. This beautiful 1960s lie detector didn't really work, but we managed to make it work. And the visual effects were done really, really nicely, I have to say. A quick demonstration for you. Now, a quick few comments about freedom. It's interesting when you're dealing with these kind of elements like the vinyl player, because if you are playing with this kind of stuff online on a website and you have the mouse and you can move it around and you feel like you can click anywhere, freedom is really important. The freedom to be able to pick up the CD case, the vinyl case, or the newspaper in any order, whether or not the vinyl player is rolling, is important. If you can't do that, it doesn't feel real. Doing it, of course, is complicated, tricky, but worth the effort because people feel like they have that choice. It feels as close as you can get to real life. Being able to pick up these items in any order, regardless of what's happening in the background, means layering the video. There's about 3 layers of video here, full screen, playing at the same time. That has a big impact on compression rates, on edging, on just the playback of the whole website, the download time. All those elements are very intimately linked, but it's really worth going through all that trouble to make it possible to do those things in order. Same with the telephone. I really wanted people to be able to dial any number and in any order, even if we can't obviously allow you to dial forever and call somebody, but you should feel like you can dial any number in any order. And more importantly, you should feel like you can do it even if the horn is still on the phone. You can do it in real life. So it was worth going through those extra steps to create the layers that made it possible. In this case, with the phone, items were separated and layered up. The circle in the center where you dial is a whole separate layer on its own. And the freedom that you get there is really rewarding, I think. From a sharing point of view, we did something interesting. Every project nowadays online, especially if it's narrative-based, has a feature that allows you to share it with your friends, bring it out into the world on Facebook, on Twitter, as you wish. And in this case, we had a love letter. Since the story is really a love story, it's a man who proposes to his girlfriend, but loses the ring to a thief. It's a love story, and so we wrote a love letter, which in the film, it's about 2 minutes long. It's extremely long-winded. I won't play it for you here, but I'll just go back and play it again. You have a love letter, and you can sign it with your name, and you simply do that by typing on the keyboard, and the letters of your name appear. And that's what you send to your friends on Facebook or on Twitter. So we basically had to film somebody writing every letter in the alphabet. It's not that big of a deal. Then think about names, let's say Polish names, Greek names. How far do you go? If you want to type a 0, I can write a 0 on a letter. If you want to do that, would you be able to do that? Every single letter is a video file. Again, the boring complexity is the number of files, the download speed, the compression, to be able to mix it all together, the smooth playback, so it feels totally connected. It feels like one video, but it's actually hundreds of little video files. And finally, one of the key elements in this project was being able to promote the live theater event. It was a very popular event, a very interesting approach, especially by the agency. How do we get people to know about this? That's the story online. It launched about a month before the theater event launched. Then how do we get them tickets? How do we control that? And they wanted us to do it online, obviously, and it should be in character. It needs to be a part of that same time period. So we made a typewriter that you can literally use to enter your details in a form to apply for a ticket. First, you select what information you want, which part of the experience you want to be a part of. And once again, you just type with your keyboard. It's pretty responsive. It's really, really quick. And that gives you the feeling you've not left the story for the sake of a form or a formality. You've not kind of ruined the mystery of that story. In any way. And it's amazing to me because, again, I said earlier, I never grown up with a typewriter. My parents did. But wherever I've shown this to people, whether they were 12 or 52, everybody responds with such a passion to the ability to type with a computer keyboard and see it respond on your screen as a classic typewriter. The sounds are enough to recreate that feeling of the mechanical object that just seems to inspire love in people. It's what the web misses, I think. All of this process was about 6 weeks' time. We wrote the script in week 1 and then started planning, building, creating. And the final coding process was really only 2 weeks, so it's a miracle turnaround in many ways. It's never ideal with these kind of projects. Processes are really very compressed. You have to make a lot of decisions in a very short amount of time. Sometimes that is actually for the best. It's interesting. It depends. That's really it for the Black Diamond. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want any more information about any particular part?
I've got a question about this surreal part,
Mm-hmm.
the theater part,
Sure.
the whole performance. How does it look like? Because I didn't get it.
I don't have the visuals here. Basically, the theater performance was constructed as part of the same script and the same art direction process as website. So it looks pretty much the same. Obviously, there are real people, real actors. Everybody's dressed up. They had 8 different venues in London, in between about 4 streets, and each of those venues was dressed up in 1960s style. Anything modern was removed and replaced with something vintage and classic. And then you go in with two friends, two people at any one time, and you go through those streets. They take you through. People are there. There are actors there. There are normal people walking down the street going home. It's all part of the real world. At some point, you get separated. They've constructed quite a good story that gives you elements and hints of the Black Diamond journey. At some point, you get separated. One of you gets put into a taxi. The other goes into a bar. You make your way through the story. People are constantly helping and guiding you or abducting you. Don't really know, one or the other. And you know, for the rest, it's a beautifully art-directed, authentic piece of 1960s sort of scenery in the middle of London. They had that on for about a month, and I think every single day they went through about 20 different groups of people, so it's quite a big operation. The idea of guerrilla theatre seems to be very popular now in London. I'm aware of in London a few different projects where people are immersing you inside of a story with actors, with props, with a very complex story, and you're in the middle of that. It's very interesting as an idea. Punch Drunk is one of the companies that does that very, very well. They've done that quite a lot. So it's interesting. It's also online if you want to look further, have a look at Punch Drunk's reel. I'm sure you'll find it there. Anybody else? Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your attention, guys, and I'll be there if you want to have any more questions. Thank you.
Naszym ostatnim prelegentem przed przerwą lunchową